Taking a first look at a brand new LPVO on the market. If you guys have watched the channel for some time, you know that I have reviewed other optics from Tract Optics. They are a direct-to-consumer company, which means they take out the middlemen. So there's no distributors, no dealers that are taking a percentage of the cut for profit, and they are basically selling direct to the consumer, allowing you to save a little bit of money, actually a lot of money, and get a high-quality optic direct from the manufacturer. It's a popular business model in other industries, and it is also becoming more popular in the firearms or optics industry, as demonstrated by the success of Tract. My name is Dave Tim from Guns and Tactics. I do appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day checking out this video, and this is my first look of the Tract Toric Ultra HD 1:8 low power variable optic. As of the time that you are watching this video, it is available for either order or pre-order, depending on when you're watching it. But it is a brand new, this is only one of just a handful of final production samples that are out in the wild. And this is just a first look. So industry disclosure, I do have this as a very short-term media sample. I do have to give it back to either Tract or to another media creator, writer. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not even getting to keep this scope or anything like that. So everything that you're going to hear about is my opinion. Now, real quick and short, I love LPVO optics. I'm not kidding you when I say I own about a dozen LPVO optics. And for those of you guys that don't know, LPVO is low power variable optics, so like a 1 to 4, 1 to 5, 1 to 6, 1 to 8, 1 to 10. And literally I have about a dozen. I love LPVOs. I was running an LPVO before it was cool to run an LPVO, and I got made fun of by some big name instructors for running an LPVO at classes and stuff way back in the day. This is over 10 years ago. But anyways, I love LPVOs. I run them at work, competition, whatever. I am very well versed in a variety. And I have to say, for their first LPVO, their 1 to 8, they did a great job. We'll go over some basic specs, but you can read specs on their webpage, things like that, but I'll highlight a couple of specs that I think are important. Number one is the weight. This is going to be right around 20 ounces. Would I like to see it closer to that pound? Absolutely, but there's a lot of other LPVOs that are much chunkier and much heavier, so my goal weight is going to be right around that, pound, give or take. So the fact that we are so close to that speaks really, really well at 20.3 ounces. Now, 11 inches overall length, so it's not very large. There definitely are larger scopes on the market. 30 millimeter tube, 24 millimeter objective, and it is a 1 to 8. Why those specs are important is that is what's going to determine our eye box, if you will. So eye box is kind of a combination of our eye relief, which is a constant 4 inches throughout the whole range, which is really cool, and then the exit pupil, which is the size of the image that we see. Now, with a 24 millimeter objective and an 8 power, it does get kind of small, requiring that good cheek placement when we're using those magnifications. Just kind of a nature of the beast. In order to increase that, we'd have to increase the objective size, which would increase the tube sizes, lens sizes, and add more expense. So I do think that it's kind of a trade-off. There's no free lunch when it comes to LPVOs, and this is a choice that they made, and I'm not disappointed with it. Now, in the future, could we see a different version with a larger tube, objective, whatever? Who knows? That's the cool thing with Tract, is that they are a small company. They can adapt and they can go on what the demands are. But for this type of LPVO, I think it is executed very, very well. We'll talk about more shootability here in just a sec. We'll just finish up with the specs. It is available in an MOA or an MRAD version, 0.2 MRAD, half MOA, depending on which version you get, and obviously the knobs do match the reticle. They have a reticle that's based. Now, let's talk about reticle. I do like the reticle. It is simple. It is a second focal plane scope, which means that the reticle does not change. One of the things that I really liked, I was very pleasantly surprised with, that I saw, is the lines are bold enough to be easily seen. Like some of the other LPVOs in the market, second focal plane LPVOs, the lines are really faint towards the center where you really have to kind of search for them. There's not a lot of that bold contrast. In this, they're not too thick. You can definitely see what you want to see. You can see your target, but they are nice and bold and crisp, so they make finding that sight picture just really, really quick. So I really like the reticle in that regard. Also, it's not too busy. Some of the other LPVO reticles, they add too much stuff, Christmas tree, whatever. It's an LPVO. You don't need all that stuff, in my opinion, so I like that kind of bold. And if anything, I would maybe even like to see the center just a hair more bold, or the illuminated dot a little larger, which we'll talk about here in a second. But overall, the reticle works really well for a second focal plane reticle. It's simple, it's not overly obstructed, it doesn't have too much crap in it. It works really well. I shot to about 250 yards I was able to engage, 2-3 MOA size targets out to that 250 yards, no problem, using the different magnification ranges. Additionally, an LPVO isn't always used for distance. Sometimes it is used for a more closer, precise shot. Even in law enforcement, we're starting to see more LPVOs being used. And sometimes it's not necessarily about the distance, but it's about being able to see more information, make a better decision, and then make that more precise shot. And I was doing some closer drills where I was shooting smaller targets, 2 inches, 3 inches, between 50 and 100 yards, and being able to zoom in, kind of get steady, make those hits. It was no problem with this optic. Now, those are some of the specs that I feel that people will ask about. For the full specs, you can check out their webpage. I'll put a link up there so you can see everything. But let's get into what I really, really like about the scope. Number one, just right off the top, the surface finish is this nice dark gray. But this is just a hair darker, and the gray is just done beautifully. And gray is a tough color to anodize. Sometimes the grays can turn out green, sometimes they can turn out blue, sometimes they can turn out purplish. So gray is actually a really tough color to anodize, and they nailed it. This gray is gorgeous. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. I'll show you some other B-roll from a variety of lighting conditions outside. I mean, in the studio, it's easy to make grays look good under controlled lighting, but I gotta tell you, this thing is absolutely awesome. When I was talking to John and John about LPVOs, because they told me a while ago when I was reviewing some of their other products that they had an LPVO in the works, and I offered some of my feedback, my advice from using, like I said, about the other 12 or so LPVOs that I have, and even more that I've sold and demoed and whatever else. And they took my feedback to heart because they nailed some of the stuff on here. Number one, I talked about the reticle. They did a really good job. Now, my only improvement on the reticle, and I'm showing you some images up there, is that center dot. While it is daylight visible, I always wish it could be brighter, and I think one way that they can make it a little brighter is to make it even a little bit bigger. It is a small dot, it's within the crosshairs, but if I could change one thing, I would make that center dot even larger, so it's more like like a red dot optic or whatever. But that's my only complaint. Life is pretty good. So yes, it is daylight visible. It's not as bright as, I always want it to be brighter. I always want it to be like, whoa, gotta turn it down. And when I was shooting in the day, even at 10, I wish it could be just a hair brighter. And then the downside with having such a small dot and having all that illumination go there is that if you are not in that bright condition and you do have it on 10, you will get some spill. Otherwise, it's not really noticeable if you're out in a bright condition or anything like that. Now, a couple of other things that I gave them feedback on. Number one was the battery compartment. And this is awesome. Every LPVO should, this is how it should be. I hate coin slots, okay? Number one, if I have a battery and I need to change the battery, I have the battery, but I don't carry coins, okay? I just don't carry coins. So having a coin slot is just silly, or a screwdriver slot or whatever. So this is a toolless knob. And if we just take the battery knob off, toolless, absolutely awesome. I can take the battery knob off, I can pop the battery out, put a new battery in. Absolutely amazing. I don't know, like I said, why more LPVO companies don't do this. The coin slot is lame-o, supremo. They nailed this. Love it. I was really, really excited about it. From a usability perspective, this is absolutely awesome. Other cool things that I really like about the illumination control is it is an on-off system. So again, we have off, 1, 2, all the way up to 10, and you can go either way, and again, off in between. So you can, I usually would probably leave it set somewhere around there, and then that way I can go up bright, I can go down, or if I was doing low light, it's not that many clicks away. But again, it is an off in between, so I don't have to go all the way down, all the way back to turn it off. Love that, absolutely love it. Speaking of the knobs, love it. Absolutely love this, that it is a toolless design. Now, even with the caps off, if you kind of wanted to run it like a mini precision scope, you can certainly do so. The knobs are marked. Is it a little small? Yeah, but you're kind of limited to the size there, but you can very easily see your adjustments that you need to make. And crisp, tactile, no issues whatsoever, no complaints whatsoever with the little turrets. And even when you take the caps off, they do have the directions clearly marked on there, and then it is clear here, so it almost looks like it could be just as functional without the cap on. Nice knurling, things like that. And the windage, again, nailed it here. This is what I love about the windage. So we'll start with 0, and then you'll notice that it goes 1 or 1 either way. So you know if you're going left or right. Now some of the other scopes on the market, it just continually goes around one way. So then if you go this way, you're at like 13, 14, which doesn't make any sense. So here I would be at 3 to the left, give or take. There's 3. Or here I know I'm going 3 to the right, and I can then reset into 0. So how the knobs are marked on the windage, again, nailed it. I don't do a lot of dialing with LPVOs, but if you want to, they did an awesome job here. Now, one of the other things that I'm really excited about, and this works for both the windage or the elevation, is toolless zero adjust. So all I do is I unscrew this top part of the cap here, and then I can pick up the adjustment knob. I can reset it to 0 or whatever other position I would like. So we'll just reset it to 0. Now it's set to 0. I put this top piece back on, thread it in, snug it down, and now it is set to 0. And again, toolless design, so I can do this very easily at the range without any tools. Love it. Absolutely love the knobs. Nailed it. Both the elimination and the windage and elevation. And the windage does the exact same thing as well. The caps are low profile. They're not overly large. They thread on, provide a good seal. Magnification ring is smooth, works just as it should. Goes all the way from 1 to 8, very smooth, no binding, no issues whatsoever. And if you'll notice that the little ridge here is at the, what would that be, the 9 o'clock from the shooter's perspective, and then to go to 8, it goes 180 degrees to the 3 o'clock. So it is a 180 degree throw to get from 1 to 8. There is a throw lever available as an accessory that will be available when the scopes are available. I would highly recommend, if you're gonna get this scope, just get the throw lever. That would be a no-brainer in my opinion. But 1 to 8 in 180 degrees, and it's very smooth. Fast focus eyepiece, and you can set it. The one thing that I will say with any fast focus eyepiece is that once I get my eyepiece set, I either usually mark it with a witness mark, or I put a small piece of gaff tape on the bottom just to hold that in so it doesn't get bumped or whatever. That's just kind of LPVO tricks 101. Everyone always wants to know about glass quality when you're looking at a scope like this, and the glass quality is right up there with every other LPVO, like high-end LPVO that I've used. So name your high-end LPVO. I either own it, have had it, whatever, and the glass quality of this is right up there. Now they're using shot HT glass, and it is made in Japan by Light Optical Works. They make no secrets about where they're getting their stuff made, and Light Optical Works is making some of the world's nicest rifle scopes, and they know what they're doing. Shot HT glass, the tone of this was very pleasant. It was just slightly warm, and some scopes you look through and it's very warm, almost deceiving. Other scopes you look to, it has a real cool, bluish almost tone. Some are very neutral, but this one had a very pleasant, slightly warm tone, very similar to my 4.5 to 30, where it's just pleasant. It has good contrast, good resolution, very clear. I have zero complaints with the glass. Even in some low light stuff, I didn't get to shoot much low light, but I took it out in low light, and the resolution I thought was good. Again, only had this for a couple weeks, but I have no complaints so far with the glass. So I really like that. It is fully multi-coated, argon gas sealed for all the weather stuff or whatever. Again, full specs are available online, but the glass, no issues whatsoever. Now, where do I think this scope really shines is there's a lot of people that benefit from LPVOs, obviously from the AR market, patrol rifle markets, but I think where this scope is also really gonna shine is for the predator hunter, the coyote hunter, looking for an LPVO for their semi-automatic or maybe their hunting rig, where they want something that's light, has good eye relief, is simple, illuminated reticle for predator night hunting, but a good bold reticle that is easy to pick up for an all-purpose kind of hunting rig. Nailed it. The other thing that I think, dangerous game rifles, I know there's a lot of dangerous game hunters that like a low power variable optics that has that nice wide field of view, and again, I think this would be a great choice on one of those situations, a scout rifle, a hunting rifle, whatever. The other thing that I kind of think LPVOs are going to grow in is in pest control, kind of critter getter type guns. I have an LPVO on a couple of my 22s, And I really like it because at 1x for those quick little critter shots, it's just as fast as a red dot, but yet if I get that little critter that's out 50, 60 yards, I can zoom in and be more precise. And I think this would be a great scope on a high-end critter getter. So I'm actually hoping to pick up a couple of these, one for an AR and then one likely for like a high-end 22 rig. And I think this just executed really, really nice. As far as pricing goes, as of December 2021, there is a pre-order sale price. Otherwise, regular price will be $1194. So let's just call it $1,200. And for $1,200, you're getting a high-end 1-8 LPVO. Now, is that the cheaper option compared to some of the other 1-6, 1-8 scopes on the market? Nope. But does this have more features and nicer glass than several of those? Yes, it does. Now, you can also compare to some of the other high-end 1-8, 1-10, 1-6 scopes, and I feel that this is very competitive. So $1,200 for a high-end LPVO with shot glass, it is a very competitively priced optic. I believe this easily compares with some of the other optics that are $1,600, $1,700, $1,800. The glass is really that nice. So I really like this. I can't wait to see a production sample. I would hope to get one for a longer review, and then I can kind of report back with you guys once I have some more rounds on it. But again, I probably have 4-ish hundred rounds through it, shooting out to about 250-ish yards, no complaints, and I was really impressed with what I saw. For more information, you can check out Tract Optics. I'll put a link down there below, and if you do click on the link, it just lets them know that you saw it from us, which we do appreciate. Again, I'm not getting paid. I'm not taking any money from Tract. They've just been very nice to supply me with some optics to check out, and I've been very impressed with the results. And if there's something I didn't like, I would tell you. So like I said, my only complaint is I wish that center illuminated dot was just a little bit bigger, but that's my only complaint. That's my only suggestion. Life is pretty good. If you guys have any questions about this or anything else, you can go ahead and send us an email to theqa@gunsandtactics.com, and we answer your questions at the end of every month. Also, you can share your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll try to interact with you. I try to respond to all the comments that I can. If you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. We do appreciate it. We're trying to make the channel grow, and that always definitely helps. Thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great day.